All right, so we are still waiting for the radiator to come in. I went ahead and ordered some new AC cooling condensers as well. They'll be here shortly. But what did come in is the brake booster. Let's see if I can get this open without having to go inside. One of these does. There we go. Convenience of having the front bumper off. So I went ahead and ordered a brake booster for this guy. Because I have pretty much zero pedal. And when I mean zero, it maybe moves half inch, if that. And you literally have to use every ounce of your muscles to even get the car to remotely. So initially I thought it might be the brakes, but after doing the front calipers and pads, or rotors and pads, it clearly is not that. Of course, this fluid is black as hell, so it's really contaminated. Brake fluid takes moisture from the air, and it does go bad. Most cars have a recommended change. I would think a performance car, I haven't looked it up, like a Porsche, probably recommends you change it at least once a year, especially if you live in a damp climate. So, but we're going to go ahead and get the spare tire out of here, and we're going to get this cover off so we can get down to the brake master and the brake booster, and then we're going to suck the fluid out of the brake master and get that up out of the way and work on getting the booster up. Shouldn't take too long, and then once we have all the brakes done, we'll bleed the whole system, and hopefully we'll have a nice stopping car, and go from there. Alright, so to access the brake, you have 3 Phillips head screws up here at top, and then there's a little twist pin there. You just turn that guy about 90 degrees and it comes right out, and then you just unplug your front wire, and now you have access to all this. But you can see how black this is. Should be clear. So we're going to go ahead and bleed that. The other thing we're going to go ahead and remove is this cover. It just sort of sits in here. We'll get that guy out of the way, because eventually we will need to get down to this. But first we want to get I have a vacuum device that I'm going to use to suck the fluid out, and then I will also get a pair of line wrenches so that I can replace or remove the 2 lines for the brake. I'm trying to see if any of this looks like it was replaced. This is an 03. I think that all looks original, so we'll see. We got the sensor here. Alright, so let me get my vacuum set up, and we'll worry about getting that fluid out of there. So I've heard people using a turkey baster to get the fluid out of here, but my question is, how do you get the filter out? Now online I've seen a couple of different answers. Basically, you cut something, you do this, you do that. Some people said, oh yeah, mine just popped right out. So we will see what it takes. I've tried lifting on it. It's not coming up. It comes up a little bit and then it locks into place. And I'm trying to see if there's like, I can see right on this area, might be hard to see it in the video, that there looks like there's a groove right about here. So to me, that's kind of telling me that there's something I kind of need to line up. Maybe we can see it a little better. All right, see that groove? So something tells me something's got to line up there. So I'm gonna twist that around a little bit, try to grab that centerpiece with a set of needle nose pliers and see if we can get that screen out there. Because the only other option would be to connect the siphon up to one of the wheels and siphon the fluid out through a brake bleeder, which I could do, And I will eventually have to bleed all the brakes anyway, and I would replace all the fluid, but I was kind of hoping to just do this job at this side without having to do that. Alright, so I got it out. I'm not sure what this little piece in there, I've never seen something like that. It's like a agitator or something. It doesn't look like it was actually connected to that, because when I pulled out it just came straight up. But yeah, there's these little fingers around the bottom of this, and it won't let it come up. And I thought it would be channeled, but only one of them right here has a mark that would allow them to go through, but they're not that. So I just bent the cup a little bit, got my pliers on there, and it gave it a little tug, and it popped right out of there. So now we're going to go ahead and dip our vacuum tube into the stuff, and we're going to suck all that fluid out of there. Alright, so I got the brake fluid out. This is one of those cheap Harbor Freight vacuum brake bleeders, but it works really good as a siphon. The hose is long dead, but any hose will work. And I got all the fluid out of the bowl, so now we can see down inside there nice. So it did settle. Okay, so that settles down inside there. And then I assume that when the screen's in, it keeps that little float in there. And I'm assuming that that float lets the car know what level the reservoir is. So it would kind of, the bottom of this basket would kind of lock over the top of that, so it's in the right place. So I got down as deep as I could, got as much fluid out. I am going to get a rag and set under here because there's still probably going to be some fluid left here in the two lines. Not much. And then once we get those lines cracked free, we will reach through here. There's a couple of bolts. There's one right there, and there's one down below it. We'll get those two bolts out. That will remove the brake master from the booster. Then we'll have to, ow, the car is hot because it's still in the 90s today. And we will need to remove this horn unit so we can get to the boot. And there's a nut underneath that boot. My new brake booster came with a new boot, and I'm not sure how you put the damn boot on without cutting it. All the videos I saw and people replacing it, they just cut it and then put a hose clamp at the end. So probably end up what I have to do as well, because I really don't know how you're supposed to change that without, I guess, totally disassembling from the brake pedal forward. But we're not going to do that. We're going to do this the down and dirty way. So that's what we're going to do. So first things first, I'm going to break these nuts loose, and then we'll get the master out of the way. Alright, so my handy dandy line wrenches, that is a 13. I've already cracked this front one loose. I'm going to do the same thing on this back one. I need to get in there. Ow, damn. Still keep running myself on the car. Okay. Alright. Oops. Thought I had it, but I don't. So, let's see if we can go from the other side. There we go. Alright, so it's on. We're going to give it a couple light taps. Or not. Alright. Might need two hands. Yep. Took both hands. One just to sort of stabilize the wrench so it didn't move, and the other one to push down. And I went ahead and got me this little towel here just so it would not leak any of this, what's left of the brake fluid, in all over the place, because brake fluid is very corrosive. Okay, yep, there's a few drips in there. Let's see if we can get this back one loose enough. The back one's a little bit more of a challenge. There's not a whole lot of room to work with. But once you get it loose, it should turn by hand. Fairly easy, it does. Okay, pull those back. Okay, I'm gonna leave that there for a second, and then we're gonna hunt down. Ooh, those are big boys. All right. So we'll figure out what size that is. Looks to be about a 19, and there is a Torx in there. I think the Torx goes into the body of the booster. So I don't know if we need to exchange those, but we will find out shortly. All right, so it's a 22, and it does take a bit of fiddling. I use this long 22, and I'm able to get in there just enough to get on that. Let's see if I can get this other one. Still pretty tight. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and loosen both of these up, and then I'll be able to pull the master up out of the way. All right, so we got these like self-centering 22s out of the way on the top and bottom, so that means that the master should be pretty much ready to slide right out of there. All right, so went ahead and removed the horn. This is still attached, so it must be the screw. So when we're gonna cut this boot open, first I'm gonna get a set of side cutters and remove that clamp right there. Cut that boot so we can get it up out of the way and see what we're working with. Okay, so I got the rear clamp off and I've sliced a hole down the center. Now I'm trying to get this front clamp. It might be hard to see. Come on, focus, focus. Yeah, it's not focusing. All right, so I'm trying to get that front clamp so I can get this whole piece of boot out of here, because we want to get to the nut that's now underneath there, and it's not really giving me enough space. All right, so with a little struggling and a little effort, we were able to finally clear that rubber boot out of the way to get to this nut. Now when we take this nut off, what we want to do is make sure that we do not move it too much. We just want to break it free, and then we're going to do something else to get the brake booster out. But we do not want to change that, because moving that will adjust your pedal height, and that is something we want to avoid. So, but I'm kind of thinking this one might be bad. Look how ugly all that stuff is. So once we get this out, we'll be able to compare it to our new one and see what we got. All right, well, it's been a few hours. It's cooled down. I went back to the hospital, visit the wife for a little bit. I am gonna go ahead and finish trying to get this master cylinder off. I think it's just currently either held on by the O-ring that's stuck there, or it's held on by a little bit of vacuum, so I'm not really sure. I did go ahead and order a new master cylinder as well, so I will be reusing the fluid reservoir, so hopefully that will not be too much of an issue. So yeah, we'll get that out of there, and then that should be that. Then I will just have to figure out what size nut that is, and that way, so this whole piece from that inner tube all the way to here is part of the new master cylinder. But we don't want to mess up that adjustment, because that is where it is threaded in. That tells us our pedal height. So we want to try to keep that as much, and then we'll get the measurements between the two, make sure that they're the same. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and see if we can wiggle that out of there. All right, so in order to get my brake master out, the rear line I loosened up here at the ABS pump just enough so that that swings, and that helped me get it out of there. I didn't want to bend or twist on that line. The front one did pull back enough for it to slide out, so not too big of a problem. So yeah, if you're having a problem or you have an ABS car, you probably are going to need to loosen that. It is a 13 at both ends, so no big deal. All right, so the next two things we need to do are remove the vacuum connector for the brake master. Mine was still under vacuum, so not sure. So probably means that my master was good, but like I said, my brakes were so damn hard. This car sat since 2017. Between the booster that I ended up buying and the brake master itself, it's like $150. So to me, that's just good, cheap insurance. These two studs here are held in by a, what is this, a T45? Yeah, it's a T45. So we're going to go ahead and do that. But we also, may be hard to tell, but there's a shiny nut and a not shiny nut. And that is a 19 and a 17. So we're going to break those two apart. You can do it now, or you can do it before or after you take these two studs out that actually are holding the booster to the line, but you're going to need to loosen them up, and you're going to want to make sure that the black one doesn't move. You want to keep it right where it's at, but you are going to have to spin your brake booster while you hold the nut. Alright, so with a little light you can see that a little better. So it does take a little fiddling, but you can finally get in there with a 19 on this one, 19 on this one, and a 17 on that one. So we're going to try to keep this from turning. Next we're going to go ahead and pull these two T45s out the front, and we're going to pull the vacuum line. Hopefully I can pull that out of there, and we'll see about getting this out of here. Okay, so I got these two out, and something I noticed was the bottom one's clean, but this top one's got some corrosion on it. That kind of leads me to believe that we had a bit of a vacuum leak. Or a vacuum leak, but a bit of a brake fluid leak someplace. The inside of that one is corroded. So before I put this in the new one, I'm going to go ahead and clean that up on the wire wheel. I looked at the brake master and I didn't see any obvious signs of leaking. So possibly it was changed. Maybe it wasn't changed well. I don't know, but for, like I said, for about $150, I got a brand new brake booster and master cylinder. The only parts I have to change over is the reservoir tank. So the next part here is to go ahead and get the booster out of here. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our 17 and hold the 17 nut while we spin the booster out. This keeps our pedal in alignment of where it's supposed to be. That's saying that nobody monkeyed with it to start with. Now I pulled up on my brake pedal and it feels like it's at the top of the run. If it gets out of alignment, your brake lights may stay on, so they'll let you know whether or not you are too far in or too far out. But my silver nut is loose. I can turn it by finger, so it should just mean I just have to hold. I know it's terrible, you can't see that. So we're gonna hold that little black piece, the 17, while we spin out the master, or the booster. Alright, so that was kind of strange. So it should just spin, but I had to actually pull this forward a little bit because it was stuck on there pretty damn good. So now it should turn. You can see the little gasket in there. So we're going to go ahead and hold it with our 17, and now that I've got it separated a little bit, it should go ahead and spin so I can get that out of there. Now let's see if I can get any video of this. I'm going to lean right here a little bit. I hold this spinner. It does turn. There it goes. It isn't the easiest thing to turn, but it does turn. Oops. Okay. Oops. really back up in there. Oops, sorry. Alright, I can't do this and hold the phone, so I had to take a break for a little bit because the wife was in the hospital again, and they discharged her yesterday. And of course, I get there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they don't discharge until the last possible second of the day. So, didn't get to come home and work on the car because I was waiting around on them. So, we're still trying to get the brake booster out. I have it completely disconnected at this point, and I was hoping that the people that had suggested I remove the ABS pump were wrong, but I'm wrong. It needs to be removed so that I can get enough clearance to get this bad boy out of here. Now, I was told, now my pump looks different from theirs, but I was told that all I had to do was remove these two up here, but that's not going to be the case, because I have 4 lines on mine, and they do need to come out of there. So I'm going to get these lines off here so I can get the pump out. It looks like it's going to be easier to take them out from here, and I do believe these are 11s. Once I get those lines out, we can remove the power unit, and I believe it's 3 1, 2, 3 bolts holding it in place. I don't think, yep, holding the bracket there. So it looks like we got 3 14s, I guess, to pull as well. And then I do have a little drip of brake fluid that came out of the, up here. I can see where it ran down and pulled. So we'll get that all cleaned up before it causes a problem. And then we can finish taking this out and putting the new one back in. All right, let me go find an 11 line wrench. All right, luckily I did have a size 11 line wrench, and I broke these free already, so they're just now all just sort of finger tight. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get those lines out of the way and then work on getting the bracket bolts out too. All right, so I got the lines out and they're just kind of sitting in there. I got the caps off. Or nuts are not like real nuts, they're plastic. They are size 14. It's hard to tell if they've been off before or not, but I could get this front one out. The other two are in there kind of deep, and I don't have teeny tiny hands to reach in there. But we did disconnect the plug as well, so now it should just sort of lift up and come on out of there. So we'll see if we can get that out. All right, so it did take a little bit of wiggling and finessing. I had to move the brake vacuum tube out of the way a little bit and pull this. As I was lifting up, I had to pull this bracket out first because it kept hanging on that. But it's out. The little caps stay with the thing, so I'm going to dry up this little bit of brake fluid I have in this corner, and this should just about be ready to finish unscrewing now that I have a little bit more space. Alright, so brake booster was only a couple more threads and came out. You can see where the corrosion is right there. That's the upper. So yeah, something got in there. But now that I can get underneath there, there's some more leaves and whatnot down there. So I'm gonna go, ooh, and I found a screw. I'm gonna go ahead and vacuum that out before I start putting things back together. So first vacuum, then I'll get the new booster, and we'll get that all put back in there. And hopefully I can get that done before it starts to sprinkle on me. Alright, well now it's a lot cleaner. There aren't all those leaves and things down there. Come on, focus. Don't focus on the damn nut that's up at the top. Alright, there we go. We can focus down there on the bottom. So we got most of the leaves and stuff out of there. We're going to go ahead and get the new booster. We will measure the length from the nut to the end here. That shouldn't have moved much. That's the throw of the pedal, so if we have to readjust it once we get it in, then we have to kind of play around with spinning the nut thing. But my new booster did come with a brand new, whatever that piece is there, but I'm gonna take, because it's almost impossible to get that little nut out of there, at least with the assembly still in the car, so I'm just going to take it off there, and then we'll just transfer the measurement over to here. Alright, so the new one is a TRW brake booster made in Poland, so at least not made in China. I do not know if this other one is an original piece of equipment or not. I believe it is. I don't know really how to tell the difference. But this one did come with a new sleeve. I've already cut the band off because in order to break these two apart, I'll need to get to it, so I will have to either apparently the sleeve on some of them were smaller, and so it just depends on what year your car is. This is a 2003, so fitment is kind of different than some of the videos I've seen. So this is an anti-lock brake, automatic. So but you can see the foam completely gone on this one. New foam. It's just got the sticky gasket there, so we're going to leave it. So yeah, we'll get our measurement after we get this off, and we'll make sure it's sort of in the same spot, and hopefully we don't throw our pedal off too much. But if we have to get back in here and adjust it with a band clamp, we can get this out of the way real quick. Alright, so from the top of the nut to the top of the stud, I got 1 inch on the new one and 1 inch on the old one, so if that's the right setting, that's what I'm going to go with. I may have to adjust it depending on if it's off or not. Either A, the brake lights will stay on, or B, they won't go on at all. So I had absolutely zero pedal, so I'm more worried about that than I am the brake lights. I can always adjust stuff. But so now the next part is I'm going to have to line the threaded part up to the threaded part inside there and start spinning it back on. Alright, let's see if this works. I got it started by a couple of threads, but you might be able to see that I'm spinning the brake booster, just trying to get that to go back in. So I try to keep that nut about where I wanted it. Kind of pulling it out this way so that I can screw it down, because on the front, or on the firewall here, whatever you want to call this trunk area, the lower through bolt sticks out a little bit, so you want to be able to pull it forward so that you can continue to screw it in without having that hit until you get down to where you want it to be. Alright, so can I get one more full turn out of it? Oops, okay. So now that's it. So now we have get this off of here real quick so you can see what I'm doing. So now these two holes line up, but behind this lower one, there's a little threaded piece that sticks out of the wall back there, so we have a little bit of space. So we're going to go ahead and put our long bolts through. I am going to go clean the one up. I'll go ahead and put this other one in for right this second. Get it all lined up. Oops, it's crooked. I can see it's crooked. There it goes. Alright, now it's in. Okay, so let's go clean this other one up and I'll be right back. We're going to get all that corrosion off there. Alright, so I cleaned up this one stud that had all the corrosion on it. I'm not sure if it was brake fluid that got on it and started eating away the coating, or maybe it was the old battery. The bottom one was clean and fine, it's just this upper one. So I cleaned it up. I did wipe it down with some penetrating oil just to help keep it from happening again. I've got these pretty much finger tight, and I'm going to go ahead and tighten them down. I have left the lock nut there loose in case I have to adjust it for pedal. I did order a new master cylinder as an afterthought, so it should be here in the next 2 or 3 days. But I'll get this tightened down. We'll put the ABS pump back in, get all that done, and then that way we're ready for the master when it gets here. I will probably, I'm kind of depending on how long things take, I might go ahead and put the front wheels back on so I can jack the back up and do those and then we'll just probably have to do it that way for now. I'm not sure. I have my quick jacks under the other car, so this is where a second set of quick jacks would come in real handy, right? Yeah, who's got $1,700 extra floating around for that kind of stuff? So we'll get that going. So we're going to go ahead and tighten this up real quick, get that snug down, and then we'll get this ABS pump back in. So I just went in the car and with my hand pulled the pedal back to make sure it was fully seated against the stop. It is. I pushed it forward. It's moving smoothly. So yeah. So I went ahead and snugged these down. They're not going to go anywhere. Once I get the brake master back on, I'll go ahead and put some paint marks on the body, these, and these to these guys. This way we can see if anything's moving around. So yep, next goes back in the ABS pump. Hopefully it goes in as easy as it came out, or easier. Let's hope easier, because it was kind of a trick. You do have to do some finagling and some wiggling. Alright, so I got the pump back in. I got the caps to stay on somehow. I haven't tightened anything down. I started to finger tighten these two just by pushing the tubes all the way to the base so that they were square, and then I could finger tighten these guys down as we go, so no cross threading. I still need to do the two uppers. That will be what I'm going to do here in a second. Clean this up, get all this fluid off of here. So that's where I'm at. Get these last two finger tightened, then I'm going to go ahead and tighten up the bracket bolts, or nut caps, whatever you want to call them. Alright, so I've gotten these all hand tight all the way to the bottom as far as I can turn them by hand. So before I go ahead and put a wrench on them, I already started tightening these down, just using the long extension I have and just doing it hand tight. But I knocked this one out up here, so having a long pair of needle nose will come in real handy to get that sucker back in there, unless you have little bitty tiny hands, which I don't. And this one here is going to be easy. We just have to get that set. But so yeah, we're gonna get this one in and get it started, and then we'll get that last one. All right, so I got all three in. They are plastic, so once they snug down, stop turning them. If not, then you'll round them off and then you'll never get them back out. So next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and tighten down the 4 lines I loosened up, get those all snug back down, and then we will put the power connector and the vacuum plugged into the booster. And I had a little white clip. Oh, there it is. I see it over there. It is right there. When I pulled this wire up, it shot across. So I don't know if it's broke or what, but there was a little white clip in there. All right, so vacuum lines hooked back to the booster. These are snugged. Lines are all put back in their grommets all the way back through. I went and got the white piece and put it back. That is the little keeper. Put the ground wire back through where it was. Everything else is good. These are all tight. You don't have to get too crazy with them because they're a pressure fitting, so once it's tight, just a little bit more should be enough to seat them. I am going to get my white pin and make my marks here, so I remember that these were tightened. I'm going to wipe this all down real quick. So yeah, right now that's kind of where we're at. So it is about ready to rain on me, so I might be calling this quit for this particular stage, and I'll cut this video and I'll make another one once I get the rest of the brake parts in. One thing I do need to work on is getting this reservoir off of this. Apparently it's just pressed on. I don't know if these seals are really just tight, but I haven't wanted to try to break it, because that little guy right there was like 140 bucks. It was more than the brake master and the brake booster put together, so I'm trying not to destroy it.